Welcome back. American entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy tossing his hat into the ring for the 2024 presidential race alongside President Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. Joining me right now, the man himself, 2024 presidential candidate, entrepreneur, and author of the books Woke Inc. and Nation of Victims, Vivek Ramaswamy is here. Vivek, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you intend to fix the issues we talk about every day should you be elected?
So, look, I am taking the Trump America First agenda to the next level to actually get the job done, Maria. And I believe I am leading and will continue to lead this field with the specificity of policy proposals and vision that I put on the table. I've called for a simple idea that the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government, committing to shut down many branches of the federal government. I've actually already committed to start with the Department of Education. I'm also the only candidate I'm aware in modern Republican memory who's committed to end affirmative action in this country. And by the way, that's something the U.S. president can do by executive order, canceling a Lyndon B. Johnson era order. So from that to my position on climate change and ending climate religion in America, I believe I'm actually speaking out loud and delivering on what many other Republicans are afraid to say, let alone do. And I think that's going to be the hallmark of my candidacy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you made a great point with regard to wokeness, and you made a great point about socialism over the years. But what are you going to do about foreign policy? I mean, I spoke with Glenn Youngkin on Sunday about China because now the governors are stepping up and they're saying, no, CCP, you're not going to buy farmland in Virginia. No, CCP, you're not going to have TikTok in Florida and farmland acquisitions in South Dakota. You've got the governors now filling the void that Joe Biden has failed to do. Here's Glenn Youngkin with me on Sunday. Watch this.
Sure.
In Virginia, we're standing up strong. We're going to make sure that our agricultural farmland is not purchased by the CCP. We've got a bill now through on a bipartisan basis that I will sign that will keep China from buying our agricultural farmland, particularly next to our nationally strategic assets like the Pentagon and Quantico and the largest naval base in the world. We're going to make sure that we keep these national strategic assets safe.
Well, that's pretty unbelievable, isn't it, Vivek? The CCP wanting to buy farmland by Quantico and the Pentagon after having a spy surveillance balloon float above our military installations for almost a week. What are you going to do about communist China?
So they're at the top of my list. Foreign policy is all about prioritization, and I have called for declaring independence from communist China. That is the declaration of independence of our century, and that is not going to be easy. A decoupling from the Chinese economy will involve some level of sacrifice, but we can make those sacrifices if we know what we are sacrificing for, and that is this thing we call America. And at the end of the day, okay, we got into this mess in part by using capitalism as a vehicle to spread democracy, when in fact China was just using mercantilism on the other side. So what do we need to do? We need to take, I would say, dramatic steps to be able to actually declare economic independence and pull the economic rug out from under China now. They're actually vulnerable, Maria. Not a lot of people realize this. Xi Jinping did a lot of damage to the Chinese economy last year to hold on to power for his third term. That's part of what motivates me with this sense of urgency to recognize that we have a window we're working within now where we can defeat China economically so that we will never have to militarily. Well, and the other piece of my foreign policy prioritization is actually taking aim at those cartels south of the border in Mexico who are being deputized by the Chinese Communist Party to cause the fentanyl epidemic here in the United States. You know, that's actually what top America First foreign policy looks like.
It really would be nice to see our sitting commander-in-chief take on some of these issues. The wide open border, the threat that is communist China, but instead he's focused on pushing the climate change agenda through. The House just voted last night to block the administration from allowing financial managers to invest retirement money into ESG investments. Biden says, though, he's going to veto it if the Senate agrees with the House. Vivek, your reaction, you've done so much on pushing back on wokeism and ESG.
Well, I've been fighting against ESG in the private sector. I started Strive, and I'm proud of that. But this can't just be done through the market. At the end of the day, this climate religion shackles the United States while leaving China untouched. I've committed to abandoning this climate religion. But here's the thing. Now it's going to the sacrosanct space of retirement funds. And if you're a retirement fund manager, you ought to have exactly one objective: to maximize value, to maximize the dollar value of the accounts of the retirees whose accounts you're managing.
Yeah.
And yet this Biden Department of Labor rule is actually guiding them, in fact, even silently encouraging them to use these so-called environmental and social factors instead. So while I'm glad to see Congress acting, I believe those laws and that Department of Labor rule is unconstitutional and unlawful as it stands today.
Yeah.
Ought to be challenged in the Supreme Court. And you can bet the bottom dollar that as president, I'm going to roll back not only that, but a lot of the other toxic steps taken by this Biden administration.
I mean, we've been on this, Adam Johnson, for a long time, because the one area that I keep pointing at is the thrift fund. This is the 401k plan for, government employees, including our military, and they're encouraged to buy into China, buy into ESG.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing.
Jump in here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maria. It's amazing to actually think that there is not just an opportunity, but a quasi-mandate to get government employees investing in funds that actually are supportive in doing business with China. Vivek, it's one thing to actually demonize the Chinese and try to enact ways to stop them, but what can we do here at home to just be better, whether that's opening federal drilling land to U.S. drillers so that we can use a strategic asset? What's the stuff that we ourselves can do where we don't have to necessarily deal with China?
Real quick.
Great. I think shoring up our own economic self-sufficiency is the #1 geopolitical tool in our arsenal, be it vis-a-vis China, be it vis-a-vis Russia, and fossil fuels and nuclear energy are at the top of that list. That's not just for economic security, that is for national security. You hit the nail on the head, and that's a top priority for us.
We remember during COVID when the CCP propaganda threatened that they weren't going to send the prescription drugs that America needs, that they were made on the supply chain in China. Chris Wray confirmed last night that COVID-19 leaked from the Wuhan lab in China, but Dr. Fauci is still in denial. Watch this.
Do you think we'll ever know how the pandemic originated?
Might not. It very well might not. We may not ever know. That's unfortunate, but that's the possibility that we might not ever know.
It's incredible. You have a new Fox opinion piece out, Vivek. You highlighted the COVID lab leak. You write, each of these leaders must publicly acknowledge their mistakes and apologize for it, calling for humility rather than hubris as it relates to suppression of speech in the future. I don't think Fauci is going to apologize anytime soon. He leaves out the fact that he sent money to the EcoHealth Alliance, who then sent money to actually pay for the gain of function research in Wuhan.
That's exactly right. We need accountability on both sides of the Pacific. So I'm clear that we need to hold the CCP accountable all the way up to and including economic reparations. But you know what? We have to look in the mirror, too. Our own government officials, including Dr. Fauci, worked through the back door to do abroad what they could not do through the front door. And I think accountability is a precondition for justice. And the last thing I'll say, Maria, is that actually, you know what? The question that's left is whether this was intentional. And we should ask that in the open as well.
Yeah, we've been asking that question for sure. Vivek, thank you. We'll be watching your journey, Vivek Ramaswamy. Thanks very much for being here, Vivek.